Welcome to Boris FX Live. Sponsored by Dell, NVIDIA, and Intel.
Hello everyone and welcome to Boris FX Live. I'm Ben Brownlee and today it feels like we're taking a step into the future because we're going to be looking at the new releases of Sapphire 2023 and Continuum 2023. These are both available right now, even though by my Earth calendar, it's still 2022. Well, I'm going to be joined by two of my favourite people today, Nick Harauz and John Dickinson, and we'll be taking you through some of the new goodness in Sapphire, Continuum and Particle Illusion. Coordinating things from 3 different continents is Brian Fox in Mission Control, and we may hear something from him later. And although I cover it well with my consummate professionalism, we are in fact live, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for you to get involved. Yep, we want to hear your comments and questions throughout, and here's how you do it. If you're watching on borisfxlive.com or YouTube, then what you want to do is to type in your questions and comments in the lovely little chat window that is to the right hand side of the viewer or just underneath it. If you are watching on Boris FX Live, you have made a very wise choice, because if you go to borisfxlive.com, there are also chances to win big today. So if you enter your email at borisfxlive.com for a chance to win one of our big prizes, all you have to do is scroll down to the bottom of the page, and there is going to be a lovely little box for you to enter all your details in. And we've got some big prizes coming up today. We are going to be giving away something. Brian, are we're gonna move things, or we do not have a graphic for this? All right, we're going to be giving away a 1-year subscription to Sapphire. We are also going to be giving away a 1-year subscription to Continuum, and one lucky winner is going to be going home today with a 1-year subscription of the Boris FX Suite. That is everything that we make, including Continuum, including Sapphire, including Mocha Pro, Silhouette, and Optics. You are going to be getting it all. That is going to one lucky winner today. Alrighty, so before we crack on with the show, I think I'd like to say a big thank you to our sponsors, NVIDIA, Dell, and Intel. The sheer amount of professionalism that is available back, behind the scenes is obviously matched only by the hardware that we use to run it all. So thank you very much to NVIDIA, Dell, and Intel for helping out all of our streams. Of course, a big shout out to the Dell Precision 3660 Tower. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. It's cost effective. It's a scalable performance in a mini tower design. Oh yes, I could read the whole thing, but no, go find out what the Precision 3660 Tower is and what it could do for you. AI is one thing. I can see that exactly on that slide there. Also, before we get into it, this is a bit of a special stream because this is also happens to coincide with our Boris FX Black Friday sale, which is still happening right now. It is your last chance to save 25% off of everything. That's subscriptions, that's bundles, that's perpetual licenses. It's the Boris FX Suite as well if you want it. Everything is 25% off. You don't need a promo code. All you have to do is head right over to the Boris FX store and the discount will be automatically applied. Of course, there is only one discount per customer and it's going to be new purchases only, but that could be a new subscription purchase. Who might say? There is a catch though. There is one catch. We're in the final days. The sale ends Friday night. That is Friday the 2nd of January. No, December. Friday the 2nd of December. And that is midnight Eastern time. So if you act now and take advantage of the biggest savings of the year before time runs out. TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. All right, that is all the business I think we have to do. Let's get into it. Yeah, we've got a very, very jam-packed show today. We will be bringing Nick and John on a little bit later, but I think I'm going to start off things by taking a look at Sapphire 2023 and one of the new effects that we have available in there, which is Prism Lens. So let's just share my desktop, and while I'm doing that, Brian, maybe you could queue up the little video examples that we have. There we go. All right, yeah, because we're going to be looking at Prism Lens. And Prism Lens is a brand new effect for 2023. And what it does is it simulates shooting through actual prisms, shooting through glass. And this is a very sort of popular and flexible effect. We can, be using it for just adding a little bit of fun to our travel logs or social media posts. Or it's an effect that is going to fit really, really well into music videos, technology, basically wherever you want, anything that may be a little bit dull to end up looking nice and fancy. That's where you could be using Prism Lens. And the reason is simple. It's like we've been shooting through prisms, not just through prisms, we're shooting through glass for for forever. So putting stuff in front of the lens to try to distort the image and to give a certain sort of different sort of effect, a sort of new look to things. But when we're doing this with actual glass, it's a little bit, it's one of those things. You've got to be quite skillful in what you're doing with things, and once it's baked into the shot, it's there forever. So by having this as a filter, it gives us a lot more flexibility about what we can do with things, and lets us sort of push through and try lots of new effects fairly easily. So let's take a look at how that's going to work in After Effects first. Let's just swap over to my screen, and we're going to be looking at this in After Effects, but to start with, at any rate. But what I'm going to show is pretty much the same whatever host you're going to be working in. So here's our shot, our first little shot, and I'm going to apply Prism Lens. If I can spell Prism Lens, that would be very good. Prism Lens. Cool. And here's our little default value. And when we first spark up the effect, one of the first things that people see are all these little buttons that we have on our screen, like the little widgets that appear on our screen. And we're going to make sort of liberal use of these widgets as we go through. They're a nice way of just being able to select what it is we're going to be reflecting and moving about our reflection. And you can also see we've got some little sparkles here. We can start moving around sparkles either on this side or over here on this side as well. And we're going to look at what's actually going on behind the hood of this in just a little moment. Because what Prism Lens is really doing is it's broken up into modules over in the effect over on the left hand side. So we've got reflection shape, reflection details. So those are sort of deciding how the lens reflection is actually working for us. But we also have things like color correction, chromatic aberration, glow, reflection gradient, and light. So all of these little modules we'll look at over the next few minutes, and we can decide whether we want to turn these on or off at any point. So it's really going to be a very flexible effect. But to begin with, we're actually going to be focused on a couple of things. So we're going to focus on the reflection shape. So this is deciding how our how our reflection is going to look. So we can have this either as a polygon or an ellipse. So we can have this nice little circle floating around somewhere, or as a polygon, which we can completely control. That can be quite nice. But let's just keep this as a little rectangle there. Lovely bubbly. And we can start shifting this out and softening things up as well, or getting a nice little hard edge. We'll keep the edge nice and hard there just to begin with. And then the next one we're going to look at is the reflection details. So this is what's going to happen inside of our shape. And we already sort of took a little bit of a look with that when we were fiddling about with our widget. So we can decide where that's going to be. Obviously, we can animate this. We'll see how we can link this to tracking as well later. And we can do, you know, fun stuff like rotate the image within the shape in 2.5D, of course. Swivel it around a little bit, or even flip it over. And all of these are sort of based off of actual physical prisms. So physical things that you could do with glass. You know, there's been a lot of thought put into this to try and get this looking right. So if we just, I'm just going to play that back. This is just basically the default values going in, and we can just see how that's going to look. Now, Prism Lens is one of those effects that seems fairly straightforward on the you know, on the surface. You sort of go, okay, yeah, it's reflections and shapes, and it does all this other little modular stuff here. That's all well and good, but you know, come and surprise me. Come and make me you know, make me shocked. I am going to shock you. I'm going to shock you, because Prism Lens actually is more than a little reflection-y thing. I like to think of this not as one effect, but 3 effects, all hidden in one little area. So, you know, obviously there's a lot of people who will say, Ben, are you saying that Prism Lens are 3 kids in a trench coat? And I'll say, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. So let me just pipe the presets in here. So like all Sapphire effects, we have a ton of presets that come with us, come with it here. So this gives you a bit of an idea of how broad the effects we can get out of it actually are. You know, and this really does kind of just scratch the surface. It's you know, they're very flexible types of effects. And I'm going to go with, what will I go with on this one? I think this is the ruffled plastic linear. Now, I've made this preset. I've made a lot of these presets. And one of the things that I like to do when saving these presets out is to give a good description of what it's going to do and some of the stuff that you can do with it as well. So, you know, because this is quite a complex effect, I do like to give hints in the description about how you can start to work with it further and kind of play around with it and yeah, push it a little bit further. Let's come in and let's load up the right preset, because that one didn't seem to take. There we go. Are we going to have a situation here, Prism Lens? I hope not. What am I missing? Going to move on. I might have crashed. Yeah, I think I've actually just crashed After Effects. It's going to be one of those days. I'm going to come out. I'm going to start After Effects back up again. Oh, this is it's a little sneak preview, because what we can also do is obviously we can use Sapphire within Photoshop as well. And that's one of the things we're going to look at in just a moment. So let's come back in. Oh, I know what I did. You can laugh at this. I hit caps lock, so obviously it wasn't going to render anything back in After Effects. Classic. All right, let's take it back in. Ruffled plastic. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Wasn't After Effects' fault. Wasn't Prism Lens's fault. I blame the keyboard. So in many ways, it was Logitech's fault. All right, so if we take a little look at this one here, we can see we're working with a linear prism lens rather than just the single one. So this is where instead of just having like a single reflection, we've got multiple reflections happening within the image. It's probably going to be easier to see it if I come in and maybe just adjust where the reflection's happening. So probably take it around about there somewhere. That'd be quite nice. Yep. And all of this can be animated, so we might as well just animate some of this stuff up. So I change my source position over here, come to the end, push that up there, and we'll animate that in. And because we've got multiple copies happening, which we can see in the reflection shape over on the left-hand side, I've got 5 copies of the reflection happening here. We also can sort of do a cheating way or a cheap way of animating this using the bias. So what this does is it just kind of pushes those copies up and, back and forth a little bit, so we can kind of get almost like a little 3D movement within the scene. So if I render that out now, just do a quick RAM preview on that, you can see we can start to get a little bit of animation happening within the reflections, but the reflections themselves are staying pretty much tight, and the distance between them is staying pretty tight there as well. So that's kind of nice. What you might have noticed is that this center point, the point that the position of, or the interesting bit within the image, is always clean. So we're not sort of invading the whole image with the prism lens. And the way we do that is with this bad boy in here, is with Mocha, because Mocha actually, like it, many different sorts of bring that in there. Yeah, like with many different Sapphire effects, Mocha is built directly into the plugin. And we can use this in a couple of different ways. We can use this to track in parts of the effects, which we're not going to do right now. Or we can come in here and we can choose where we're going to mask off our image. So sort of keep this one nice area nice and clean. And we can animate it up. So we can come in and we can, well, maybe if I get rid of that keyframe there, I can animate this in so that we just sort of maintain focus within just one area. You see that's animating within Mocha now. Save that, exit out. And now that's going to focus stuff up again when we come back into our host. Very nice. Let's just play that back. That's kind of a fun little thing to explore with. The final kid in our trench coat. Prism lens, thank you very much. Is the radial lens. So prism lens radial. And what this does is it comes in and it creates a series of shapes, series of reflections that go around a center point. And again, let's come in, let's take a look at some of the presets. And in the presets, I can actually just type in radial. And that will show us the radial presets we have available to us. Let's use the multi-row radial sparkles. Okay. And you can see here we've now got like a number of reflections coming in around our shape, and we still can come in and animate this up in the same way that we could do just with like a single lens. Or, and here's the fun bit, I just close down my reflection shape and my reflection details. With both the radial and the linear, we open up these extra parameters here. So we can choose how many rows we have. We can take this, the row number down to 1. So we just get like a single circle, choose how many copies we have in there as well. Let's just stick in 5. There we go. Change up things like the angle, but where I think stuff starts getting really interesting is when we start to animate up things like the row distance, and the opacity as well. So this is where we can come in and with the radial opacity fade. Let's just come to the start frame here. I'm going to keyframe this up. So the radial opacity fade means that we have it's almost like an opacity gradient going across the screen. So you can see that on one half of the screen, because we've got the opacity fade set to 0.39, it's fading off from the start point. And the same with the radial size as well. We can have this fading, growing or shrinking as it moves across the screen. And I can do things with row fades and row size. If I take my row number up, maybe we'll take that to 2. Change that distance so we can have that a little bit closer to start with. Maybe I'll actually take that to 3. So you can see it's even more. And have that really nice and tight to begin with. So the row distance, they're almost sort of on top of each other. But with the row opacity fade, we can fade out between the rows as well. So we can have sort of more elements coming on later on in the shot. And the row size, we can have these sort of shrinking or growing as they move away from the center. So it's a really fun little effect we can have here. Let's take the opacity fade down, bring those on. Opacity fade, let's bring that down as well. So bring more elements in. And the row, let's bring that up. Actually, I'll probably keyframe the distance as well. So we just sort of have that spiraling out just a little bit. So we can see that a bit better. Give that a quick RAM preview. Have a little look at that. And we're only sort of touching like a couple of the, let's actually RAM preview this properly, Ben. Yeah, and we're only touching like a couple of the controls here. You know, we're not sort of diving deep into any of the, separate modules here. We're just sort of looking at the, some of the core bits of the effect. Let's have a little look there. Oh, I do want to actually point one thing out while this is RAM previewing through. I want you to have a look at the sparkles and pay attention to what they're doing, because they're under lights. I haven't touched lights at all. They're just the default that came with the preset, and I haven't keyframed those, but we are still getting movement within the sparkles. And the reason for that is we have stuff auto-animating. So I'm a big fan of this. I'm a huge fan of effect where I can set things going, and I don't have to, keyframe everything. I can just sort of set auto animation happening and then, be surprised with how things are looking afterwards. And Prism Lens has that in spades. So let's come to our last little area here. I know there's a ton that I want to do, but I am sort of very conscious of the time ticking. So we've got a packed show today. I'm going to load one more preset into here. Even though I work with Prism Lens a lot, I still end up sort of starting with the presets a lot of the time to sort of just kind of shortcut where it is that I'm wanting to go to. And this shot here, this is kind of like a spooky shot. We did see this in the opening video. And the reason I want to have a look at this is if I just want to edit Mocha, because we have all these parameters that we can track in. And I'm a big fan of, again, where we don't have to, animate stuff in ourselves. Why not let the effects do the work for us? So if I want to track the head over here, I think that's going to be a good track. But I want to have the position point over here. I can do that as well. And let's just track that through. Nice and fast track. So boom, boom, boom. And that's following in really nicely. And when that's done, I'm just going to hit save, exit out. And it looks like it's not done anything. And that's because we just need to tell Prism Lens to use the Mocha tracking data. And as soon as we've done that, it's now going to follow in and track along with her. And we can use that as the, as the basis for our animation. We don't have to sort of stick with this as well. We can offset this as we need to, change up things like the bias as well. I did want to just, I've got two very, very quick things to show now. The first one is the lights. Let's turn the lights on. So the lights by default are these lovely little sparkle patterns. But here's a little secret. Underneath the hood, if I go click on the edit lights, what we've got underneath that's powering these sparkles and powering the lights within Prism Lens is actually Sapphire's flare designer. So the Sapphire's lens flare, which is absolutely one of my favorite effects and something that I'm sure I will be talking about a little bit later. So if we don't want the sparkles, if we want like another effect, I'm not even sure what we'd have, and maybe the Cook anamorphic here, I can take off sort of different elements of this just up here, just by turning off, hit OK. And now, oh, let's actually turn up the shift speed here just a little bit. So that's 200 maybe, just so we've got a little bit of movement in there. And now we've got a completely different flare happening within our effect. So, if you don't want sparkles, you can have a lens flare built in there, absolutely for free, and that can be Mocha tracked, and all of the fun stuff that goes with it. So that's kind of fun, kind of interesting. We can turn that on, turn that up. Now, the other thing that we did get a little sneak preview of before is the fact that we have Sapphire available within Photoshop. In fact, every license of Sapphire, whatever host you get, OFX, Adobe, Avid, whatever you have, comes with a license for Sapphire Photoshop. So that means if you want to use Prism Lens in Photoshop, that's the original here, all you have to do is just, apply it from the filters. And okay, thank you very much. And then we can go in and edit it up and change it how you want it to. Let's just make sure this is fitting within our area. Let's come in, let's see if I can do that there. Lovely. And this is, this is the full version of Prism Lens. This is Prism Lens exactly as we saw it in After Effects. The only thing we don't have is Mocha for masking, but we can still go in, load up a ton of presets, still got the same presets. They work cross-host, and sort of work things out like that. And, one of the things when we're working on stills, everything's really fast. We can even stick in like tons of masks just on those effects as well. And that's where we get to. And so that's like a very, 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 very brief look at Prism Lens and what it can start to do. I heard it described by one of the people who was actually testing it out for us in the beta program, that this is one of the most sapphire-y effects we've had in years, and I really like that. I think that was a really nice description. It's a deep effect. It's nice. It's stylish. It's got lots of lighting. It's got lots of character to it, and it's incredibly flexible with what you can do just with that one single effect. And I would heartily recommend, if you haven't checked it out already, go and have a little explore with Prism Lens and see what you can make with it. Cool. I think I'm going to switch back out to my camera. I'm going to ask Brian in Mission Control, were there any questions for Prism Lens? I'm asking Brian to do 3 different things now, and I'm
What?
liking it. I'm
What?
sorry. I do appreciate it.
No specific questions. A lot of people liking the look. So really cool
nice.
comments. Icy DEC thinking about using Stable Fusion to make an animated look and then a prism lens reflection on top. Love that. Really cool idea.
Yes. Yeah, that's gonna look really good. That's gonna look really good. Yeah,
Great job,
all of
Ben.
those sorts of like effects where you want to sort of add stuff to it. I think that's where prism lens is really gonna work out really well. What have we got next? Are we going straight into the next thing, or are we going to be giving something away?
We are going to introduce our colleague Nick, and we're going to go
let's do that.
straight into some more demos.
Excellent. Actually, before we do any of that, I just want to say to people, if you're enjoying what you've seen so far, there is a little thumbs up button if you're watching on YouTube. It doesn't hurt to press that button. Please. Costs you nothing, and it does help us out a lot. So that's very nice if you would think to do that. You can also win Sapphire, which includes prism lens, and Continuum, which we're going to be looking at in just a moment. If you go to borisfxlive.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page and enter into our competition for today. All right, let's
Ben,
head over to the next person.
I got a question
Yes,
for you though.
Brian.
What's coming up on today's stream?
Do you know what? We've got a lot of stuff coming up today. Coming up next, we are going to be joined by Nick Harauz, who's going to be talking about Continuum and glows. Not just one glow. No, lots of glows. Like, new BCC Plus glows. We also have John Dickinson, who's going to be talking about the new stuff in particle illusion. I'll be back later with some ultra grain, and Nick is going to be also showing us some light. So the new features that are available in BCC Plus Light, Continuum Light Filter. It's very exciting. Stay with us. We have a lot coming up. All right, no more frivolity. Let's go. Nick, tap.
Hey.
Are you there on the other
I am
side
here.
of the world?
How's it going, Ben? I'm doing good.
It's going very well.
Cool. I like the prism lens effect that you just showed in the extra textures that you have inside of there, grabbing onto those lens elements. That was really cool.
I'm a big fan. I'm a very, very big fan. I'm also a very big fan of yours. And I know you're celebrating a very special day today, a sort of anniversary of sorts.
I know. Yeah, we were just talking about this. It's coming up on my 1 year here at Boris FX, and what a better way to celebrate than here during a live stream. I think around this time last year we were also doing a Continuum live stream. That was my first one here, so that's kind of cool.
We were, and we were talking. Yeah, we were talking a little bit about something different in Continuum. What are you going to be showing us today?
I'm going to be showing a new glow, a brand new glow inside of Continuum called BCC Plus Atmospheric Glow. And we're also going to take a look at some added properties to film glow. I'll be showing some examples in both Premiere Pro and After Effects. So without further ado, I can actually share my screen here. And let's
do it. Let's get into the infinite void.
Yeah, can you guys now hopefully you're outside of the infinite void and just staring right in Premiere. Am I good to go?
Yeah, it's looking good. Looking very good.
Great. Yeah, so Atmosphere Glow is a brand new effect that came out in 2023. I like to kind of call it a collection of glows to make whatever you want. So you can harness the power of a glow base, but then add flicker, rays, atmospheric smoke, and this robust effect ships with a ton of presets, not to mention you can use it on elements such as text for motion graphics and video footage. So inside of Premiere, I'm going to just hop over to my effects tab, and I've done a search for atmosphere or half of atmosphere. And in the BCC film style category is where you'll find atmospheric glow. I'll just drag and drop that to the clip in my timeline. And right away, a lot is kind of happening right now. There is a glow effect that's added as a base. There are some volumetric rays, and there is some smoke that are turned on by default. I'm just going to head over to my effect controls to show this. And like you were explaining earlier, Ben, when you look at Prism Lens, it consists of a series of modules. And the same thing is true here with Atmospheric Glow. We have multiple sections / modules that you can take advantage of to build any type of glow effect that you like. And in the initial default, not only do we have a glow on, but we have, again, those volumetric rays, which I'll just turn off temporarily, and the smoke. So if I twirl down the glow properties, we have a few controls to get us started. And depending on what you do here, it's also going to have effect on all of the other elements or sections that you decide to activate. So keep in mind that while you might choose to lower the threshold right now to get a stronger quality glow, you may not want to push this too far at the initial beginning in case you're adding other elements. So I'd suggest in this case to sort of get familiar with some of the things that's possible with Atmospheric Glow is to go and explore some of the presets. And we can do that by simply clicking on this effects editor badge here at the top of the effect. So I'll give that a click. We launch inside the effects editor. And if you see here on the left-hand side, we've got a ton of presets available. So let me just click on a few of these. And the effects editor is not only a great place to select some of these glows and get a sense for the elements that are inside of Atmospheric Glow, but also to do some before and after comparisons. So at the top of the effects editor, I'm going to click on this little AB badge icon. Now we see the before of this clip next to the after, or we can do even a split screen comparison. And I can wipe that this way or this way to get a sense for how I'm manipulating my image. So just like you, Ben, when it comes to when you're in Sapphire and you're exploring presets, I always like to start with a preset and then add to it. So here I've selected this prismatic rays up center, and the effects editor provides me with an on-screen control, which does allow me to manipulate the direction of the rays, which is currently active inside this effect. Now, just like we saw in Premiere, here are all of the parameters of the glow. And let's start to look at a few of the sections. So we saw glow, we can choose a base glow color, maybe something to match our scene, along with a threshold of which pixels are involved, not to mention the intensity and radius of the glow. You also have some handy blend modes inside that base glow, which we can choose from depending on how we want to mix it into our footage, whether we go with the classic screen or a lighter. Some of those blend modes are fun to start to experiment with. Now, one of my favorite parts of Atmospheric Glow really comes down to some of the auto animation features which it is made up of. And we can see that in one of the sections, which is called Flicker. When I enable Flicker, we're going to start to have a flicker added on top of the glow that has a specific amount and a speed. Now, right now, of course, this is too intense, and we can take control of this, first of all, by bringing down the amount, something I really like to do. And we'll see that while I press or scrub through this timeline, a little bit of a flicker of that glow. Let me try to play this back a bit so that we can see it. In fact, let me bring up the amount. That will help. And I'll also bring up the speed here to its max value of 100. And we could get a sense for that flicker mixed with our glow here to provide us with a look. Now, depending on how we want to construct our glow, we can choose to have the flicker that we've just added up here after the glow or before the glow in terms of its operation, which might give us a different look in certain situations. The other additional animated element that you should be aware of, so we have flicker that we just went through, is a section here called orbs. And I've skipped over a few, which we'll go through another example, but you guys see that the volumetric raise is currently active, and that was that on-screen control here that I was playing with. That's mixed with the glow and flicker. We also have smoke and fog that we can enable that will also interact or even limit themselves to the volumetric raise. We have a prism effect that's been turned on for this overall look. And now I'm hopping down to this section here called orbs, which are some, in one of the presets you already saw these lovely little circle textures that can come mixed into your look. And just so that we get a better look at this, I'm going to turn off the volumetric raise, so we're just stuck right now with the glow, the prism, and the orbs. One great feature about these textures that we see here is that we can control where it's going to appear on our screen. So right now, we have an illumination radius where we can expand how many orbs we see. Not to mention that we can invert that illumination almost like a vignetted orbs that could exist on the outside of our footage or a motion graphic element. The orbs themselves also have a speed associated with them at the very bottom, controlling how fast they are floating within your scene. So this, along with flicker, are going to give you some options of auto animation. No need to keyframe if you're in your NLE host, such as Premiere Pro or Final Cut or Avid. And on top of being able to choose from a number of presets that are available, don't forget that we can also save our own presets. And the best part about these presets is that they're going to work cross-platform. So not only can I have this working in Premiere, but anyone who is working in Resolve or Final Cut or Avid, I can share with them this lightweight XML file to use in their system as well. So I just wanted to mention one more thing about atmospheric glow. I'm going to apply that. I have just a few more examples. But one of those is the fact that we can actually apply atmospheric glow to alpha sources. So in a second, I'm just going to hop over to a text example. But I just wanted to check in to see if there were any questions. Okay, let me just apply that effect.
I think
there we go. That's why my Premiere wasn't working. There we go. Okay, there we go. So here's my text example here. And all I want to do is apply atmospheric glow to it. So I'm going to head over to the effects category again, apply atmospheric glow, and right now it sort of overwhelms the text. Under the glow properties, note that there is an option to have the glow just come from the alpha source itself, not to mention appear under the alpha source versus on top of it. We can also choose a color of the glow itself and then start to play around with its intensity based on our settings here, not to mention the threshold that we set for it. I think I chose a black color there versus a red, which isn't going to give me the glow that I'm looking for, Ben. Okay, there we go. So we have that red color. This same operation of being able to have a glow from the alpha, not to mention have it under the source, will also appear for your volumetric rays. So here we have rays that can appear under the alpha, not to mention under the source. And then under smoke and fog, there's a control to just have the fog appear or use the source as the alpha. And you can see we have a much different look all across our alpha channel source, which happens to be our text right now. There's a lot to explore with some of the other sections too when it comes to alpha sources. So just keep in mind that in the effects editor, if we hop back inside, under presets, we can search strictly within a text category, which are some beautiful presets designed by John Dickinson, who's coming up shortly. He's created some stuff that you could apply to different alpha sources to get a sense for what you can apply here onto text inside, or alpha channel sources inside of Continuum. Cool. Speaking of glows, that isn't the only glow addition that we added to Continuum. Film Glow, which was recently added to the BCC Plus family, now has a secondary glow option that has been added, so you can have essentially twice the glow on your images. So let me just show that here. I'm going to go inside of Premiere, under Effects. Let's do a search for film, and I'll make sure to type in glow after, or I'll be inundated with a lot of different presets. And here we have our BCC Plus Film Glow available from that same film style category. By default, we get that base glow, and all of the new options up here at the bottom of the effect here for a secondary glow that we first can enable. And then we have controls such as the ability to link the intensity of the secondary glow with the primary glow. Not to mention also, just instead, we could have it have independent radius controls as well as color looks and its own radius. So this is just a nice little feature for the popular film glow. Having a secondary glow element that we can control in terms of its intensity as well as its glow radius. Now, in speaking of these glows, it got me thinking about a new addition that's inside of the After Effects beta right now. And if you guys have a Creative Cloud subscription, I believe that you can get the After Effects beta or download it from your Creative Cloud application. And one of the new features happens to be your ability to now work with 3D models natively inside of After Effects. This includes, I believe, both OBJ and GLB files. And I went on to Sketchfab, and I just grabbed a very simple GLB model to composite in a scene. So I just wanted to show you what I grabbed. It's literally this pyramid right here. And for a little composite with a glow, I duplicated that model and then attached it to a null object with a simple time-based expression that has this rotate on its y-axis. So the end result was to try to get it composited with the scene that I've just activated right now. And there's a really great effect in After Effects called a color link. I'm just turning this on here on an adjustment layer at this current time for the fact that this you can't apply effects directly to the 3D models. So I applied color link to an adjustment layer, and essentially it allows us to not only sample a color from a video image, but we'll take that color, apply it to another image, and also any light fluctuations that might be occurring in the footage/asset that you have. So I applied that to an adjustment layer, which is affecting the 3D model just to darken up the image. Set the mode to multiply, but I could make it even darker if I was trying to really match it up with, if we saw the original color from this, the scene, not a lot of light is being reflected on the foreground of these objects. So yeah, I applied this color link effect inside the pre-comp, and then I started to apply, and let me just make sure that this clip is turned off, some of the color effects on top of that. So let me just make sure everything is turned on. Yeah, that was too bright. This is going to look a lot better now. Cool. So here was what was brought in now to the final composite, where I applied a few different light effects. We applied glow edges to make a little bit of brightness here. A film glow, which is harnessing two glows, the original glow, not to mention a secondary glow that's active, but its radius is a little bit longer on the y-axis. Of course, it's moving and rotating with the actual image. I followed this with a BCC prism effect. I could have also used just atmospheric glow for that if I wanted an additional glow. A match grain effect, and then one of my favorites, which is just BCC reflection, which had some properties for fading the reflection here in the water, not to mention adding a ripple to the source that's reflecting on. And end up with this kind of cool result. I'll try to render out in my next, when I come back for BCC Light, so you can see this final composite, but this was just using that new BCC film glow, not to mention some other glow effects within Continuum on 3D models inside of the After Effects beta. Cool. So yeah, that's kind of brings me to the end of this section, specifically on glows. And I just wanted to check in, were there any questions, Ben?
That's very cool, Nick. Very, very cool indeed. Like I really like that sort of color picker that you do with the not color picker. What's the word? You just had it,
Color
and
link?
I just had it in my brain. The color link. There we go. Yeah, I like that little effect. I think that was actually really nice to see that. It's good to see how things are moving forward in After Effects like that. There were a couple of questions, but mostly they've been sort of handled within the chat. But I think one of the things that I wanted to ask you out was, are there any differences, any key differences between the Sapphire and Continuum glows over and above the kind of atmospheric stuff that we've seen in the last few minutes?
Are there any differences? I think there are several differences in the ways that they work, as well as what's available to you, and the different modules that the glows make up. So when you look at Ultra Glow, you're going to see parameters and properties in some cases spread out in a completely different way, and also you'll find use cases for them versus Atmospheric Glow, which just has different properties and options available for you within that glow effect. But I would say that they work very differently on footage, not to mention provide you with different options when it comes to when the presets that are available and when you might want to apply those presets. So that would be my response.
I think that's right, and I agree with you as well. I think there are different use cases for both of the glows. I mean, it's not really a sort of chocolate or vanilla sort of thing. It's but it is like there is a sense of because the glows are so different in the way that they're sort of created under the hood. I think the effects you get out of them are really different, and sort of depending on what you want to get done, what your source footage is, you might find you like the look of one over and above another. But it's really a sense of a personal taste, personal preference in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and I think that with the curation of presets in both Sapphire and Atmospheric Glow moving forward, the people who created the preset are trying to guide you with instruction and what they applied it to, or maybe what their creative inspiration was. Because sometimes when you look at a glow effect, it's going to look overpowering, but the footage that it was applied to, it suited that threshold just perfectly. What in other cases, it might look like the glow itself, the preset that you decided is not as exciting as you need it to be. So sometimes checking those in the effects editor, specifically for Continuum, there's a little message, not to mention the name of the preset might steer you in the right direction. And in Sapphire, when you head inside Builder or searching those presets, you're going to find out tons of information about those glow and the effects and the reason behind, or even the inspiration behind the preset, and potentially where best to apply those presets.
Yeah, and to tweak it, it's usually going to be a case of two sliders. You're going to be doing your glow brightness, glow strength, and threshold, and that's usually going to get you most of the way to get the to get the preset working on your footage.
Yes,
in my experience.
Totally.
Cool. Well, Nick, we're going to say goodbye for a moment. but you're going to be back.
See,
Stay
it's back
around.
shortly.
Don't go too far. Yeah, because
I'll
we're
be
going to
just
be
here
we're
lurking
going to
in the
be
background.
checking. Thank you very much. Yeah, you're going to be looking at lights again in a moment's time, or in a little while's time. Alrighty. Yeah, as a thank you to Nick, if you're watching on YouTube or Boris FX Live, hit a little thumbs up button. And keep getting involved, keep typing your questions. We do read all of the questions and we try to respond to all of them within the stream as well. We also have a little bit more time for you to enter into our big competition where you could be winning a 1-year subscription of Continuum or Sapphire, or even one lucky winner is going to be coming in, or actually not coming in, coming into the stream empty-handed, coming out with a 1-year subscription of the Boris FX Suite. So we're going to have 2 winners for Sapphire, 2 winners for Continuum, and 1 lucky winner for the Boris FX Suite. And in fact, I want to give away my first prize if I can. Brian, not only do we have the winner, do we have a drum roll?
I'm ready.
This is the question. Okay, here we go.
By the way,
Right, this is the
before we do
first
this,
winner.
Before we do this, I have to acknowledge.
Dear.
Shout out to Dave online for pointing out I misspelled marketing on Nick's lower third. For shame. For shame.
Did you spell it with a C?
Markering.
I'm trying. Markering.
It's marketing,
okay,
guy.
Good. I was trying to figure out. The Boston accent's coming out even in the spelling. I love it.
Here we go. I'm ready.
Let's go. All right, big drum roll. And the first winner is going to be Caroline Farino, or Carolyn Farino. You are going home with a 1-year subscription of Sapphire. Congratulations, Carolyn, or Caroline. I'm going to guess Carolyn. You are our first winner of the day. We have many more winners coming up. So be sure to go to Boris FX Live, go down to the bottom of the page and enter in your details to win. Full terms and conditions are available. Alrighty. One other thing before we head over to John, I just want to say we are in the final throes of our Black Friday sale. Yes, that's right. The Boris FX Black Friday sale is happening right now. And this is your last chance to save 25% off of everything. So that's subscriptions, bundles, perpetual licenses, even the Boris FX Suite, everything 25% off. You don't need a promo code. Just go straight over to the Boris FX store and the discount will be automatically applied. Of course, it's only 1 discount per customer and new purchases only. Why is it so difficult for me to say new purchases only? But that could be a new subscription. It doesn't have to be a new perpetual license. There is one catch. The final catch, the only catch. We are in the last few hours. Actually, no, we've got a couple of days, but it's got to end Friday. Friday, the 2nd of December, I have been told, at midnight Eastern time. So you don't have long. Act now. Take advantage of the biggest savings of the year before time runs out. TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. All right, that is the Boris FX Black Friday sale. We're going to head over to our 3rd continent of the stream. We're going to be going over to Australia, and we're going to be joined by Mr. John Dickinson. Hello, John. Can you hear me?
Hello, Ben. I've been waiting patiently here, up since 4:30 this morning. I don't know what time is it now. It's 8 a.m. So perfect time to start a bit of particle illusion.
I know. Speaking of TikTok, you do get up early for these streams, and I am eternally grateful for you.
It's my absolute
you've
pleasure.
You've taken on the crown of PI King, so particle illusion King, I think, rather than anything else.
That's my that's my joy. Living over here in Sydney, living down under. But I couldn't be happier.
That's it.
Excited to get into it. So why don't I just go
let's do
into it?
Yeah.
So let me just share my screen. I'll do that in a sec, actually. So what I'm going to do today is just walk you through some of the main new features in Particle Illusion for Continuum 2023. And the exciting thing for people who don't use Continuum is that these features will also be in the free standalone version very soon. So let me just switch across to my screen. All right, so you're seeing this in After Effects. What I'm going to do is just quickly whip across into Particle. First thing I got is a crash. That's great. It's really funny actually because I was doing this yesterday, no problems, and this morning I was having a few problems, so I just downloaded the latest build and it's crashed straight away. So I'm not going to send that. Let me just, I'll quickly reboot After Effects. But while I do that, I'm just going to whip across into the beta version. Check this out. I was going to show you this at the end of the stream, but Nick was showing you 3D, which is included in the latest beta of After Effects. But I've got an example here as well. Oh, I should say and, not but. And I was playing around with yesterday, this is only just yesterday, how Particle Illusion would work with that new 3D model import. And I'm excited to say that let me see if I can get my mouse working. And this is also hanging, there we go. In Particle Illusion and the new After Effects beta, because Particle Illusion can track a 3D layer, you can see I've chosen 3D layer here in Continuum, for Particle Illusion for Continuum. And I'm using this, where is it? This particle null. See, when I click it, you can see how the particle null is in the scene there. And if I just do a little preview here, you can see I've just done a little camera animation. So those particles are sitting in the scene exactly where you'd expect them to be. So that's pretty exciting to be able to include Particle Illusion in with this new 3D model import. So I thought that was something quite nice. If I just, move the camera around, you can see that because we're using 3D particles, that I can view it from any position in 3D space, and those particles are locked in perfectly. So that's using 3D tracking, not 3D tracking. It's linking to a 3D null in After Effects, and that was introduced in Continuum 2021.5. So I'm glad I had that up my sleeve to show you. Let me just flick back across here and see if I can get this up. Hopefully we'll be able to go through this with no problems. Just give it a moment to open up. Okay, I'm just going to launch Particle Illusion. And here we go. All right, so Particle Illusion 2023. No huge features. In the previous version, we introduced 3D models. But when I say no, big new features, there are some inclusions in here that really change the way that personally I work with Particle Illusion. And I have to say, up until this version, I found working with lots of particles a little slow. Being a motion graphic designer, 3D designer, and design director for Boris FX, I do a lot of work with Particle Illusion, and I like to throw a lot at it. And it was a little slow, but this version, I was saying to Alan Lawrence, the creator of Particle Illusion, who works with us, how much better it is, how excited I was. And performance has really improved in this version. You can see when I'm just dragging my time indicator, see how the blue bar is catching up really quickly? The caching in this version, especially in Windows, is so much better. So that really got rid of that roadblock for creativity for me. I was really able to get in there and do what I wanted to do without waiting, which was really good. So, I mean, that is probably for me in this version the #1 big new change. You can see how fast that is. All right, so let me just select the emitter node. Now, the next big thing, Particle Illusion historically has had all of the controls just basically mixed in together. And if you've seen previous versions, you look over here in the control panel on the left, and you just see literally hundreds of controls, and it was really difficult to find what you were looking for. So a huge new workflow enhancement is that we've split out like parameters into categories. You can see there's appearance, transform, emission, and these are there. They don't get in the way because they're grayed out a little bit, but they just break up the parameters into categories and make it so much easier to work with. I find I'm not searching around, and every time you search for a parameter, if it takes a few extra seconds, that adds up. So I'm finding it a lot easier to find things. And one of the specific things I like, if I click on the particle node and look at the particle controls, is that in previous versions, the over life parameters here, like weight over life, they were all down the bottom. So if you wanted to animate the over life parameters, you'd have to scroll down to the bottom and find them there. But now they're in their relevant categories. There's weight over life and there's velocity over life. So they've been distributed. So much better. Now, related to that, one thing you might notice is that some of these parameters are now grayed out. And these aren't turned off. They're what's called being de-emphasized. So they're still available, but they're de-emphasized because the parameters that relate to them are set to 0. So you can see spin is 0 and spin variation is 0. If I change either one of these, if I just increase spin variation, see how spin over life now becomes emphasized? I'm just going to undo that. So what that's doing is it's just de-emphasizing or knocking back parameters that aren't related to what's happening in this particular simulation. So it's just a way of simplifying what you're looking at in the controls to make it easy to understand what's going on. So that's de-emphasization, if I can say that correctly. All right. Now, fluids was a big new feature that was introduced in the previous version. I can't remember. That was probably 2021, maybe 2022. And we've added a few enhancements to fluids. So the first thing is edge softness. Now, I've got a force here, just as a little refresher if you don't know about fluids. If I just roll my mouse wheel, you can see this pink box. This is the force, and it's encompassing my entire stage area. So all the particles inside that force are going to be affected by that force. And if I view it from the top, you can see it encompasses all the particles. I might just actually scale this up a little bit just by clicking and dragging. And we'll come back to render view. And I'm just going to press play here. And the particles are actually being affected by the fluids already. And I can tell that because Enable Fluid Dynamics is checked for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make my force smaller just by clicking and dragging like that. And you can see how that's caching really quickly. Doop, doop. So now you can see at the top of the force area here, there's this line. If I can zoom in here a little bit, I'll just use my hand grabber tool with the left mouse button. See how we're getting this sort of particles? And this was an issue in previous versions of particle illusion. When a particle is inside the force, it's affected by fluids. But when a particle is outside the force, it's not affected. And that was either on or off. Once it was outside the force area, instantly it lost that motion that was given to it by the fluids. It was no longer affected by fluids. But we've fixed that now by adding an edge softness parameter. So this is going to feather that edge. It's kind of like a fall off area, I guess. So just watch what happens to this line of particles along the top when I increase this. I'll just change it to say 10 and just let that cache up. You can see there's still a little bit there. Might just make it 20. And we'll just play this back. So we're not getting that little little sort of like, traffic jam of particles at that edge where the particles are exiting. And that's really good because it's not super obvious in this example, but there's some examples with streams of particles where it's really obvious. So just use that edge softness parameter just to control that. I'm going to bring it down to 0, and I'm just going to rescale the force right up like that. And another new parameter for forces is swirl turbulence. So I've got a simulation detail here of 64, which is the highest simulation detail. And before this version, there wasn't really any way to add like more detail to your simulation, but now we have a swirl turbulence amount. So I'll just play this back and get some sort of idea about how that's being affected by the fluids. You see it sort of swirling around here, but if I increase the swirl turbulence, say 20, and just let that cache, you can see it starts to add more detail. Very nice. So this is really, really nice for fluid effects, fire effects, smoke effects. Just adds more detail to it. Anything that makes my particle simulations look more organic is very welcome. Okay. Now, just a couple more things I want to show you. Probably actually just one more. One of the key things is outside in After Effects. I'm just going to click Apply. It's only going to be a quick presentation today. There are lots of smaller user interface enhancements, but I'll be releasing a video soon in the Getting Started with Particle Illusion series as an update to walk you through those as well. One other thing that I want to mention is just motion blur. In previous versions, say in After Effects here, if I twirl open, where is it? Particle Properties. Under motion blur, it's set to PI settings. If I choose force on or host settings, and just going to move my time indicator a little bit. You can see how we're starting to get a little bit of motion blur in that now. If we come back into particle illusion, previously there was no way to really tell that particle illusion was using the host settings or it was set to force on. But now the motion blur button is disabled and you can see motion blur set by host. Okay, so that's just a really small thing. I'm just going to cancel that. And there is one other thing I want to mention. It's actually, there's a couple of things. What am I talking about? One is this one here. Let me just move my time indicator. So it's a little difficult to see. I haven't got many particles in here. One of the things that bugged me about particle illusion prior to this version was that with emitters that had a shape, things like sphere, if you change the size of the emitter, it exponentially increased the amount of particles. And if you accidentally made it too big, you'd be sitting for a while waiting for particle illusion to catch up. But that's all been fixed now. And I'm going to open particle illusion and show you how. All right, so there's my emitter. I'm just going to click play. It's going to be super fast because I've only got a few particles, a little bit difficult to see. And you can see at the top here, this is this new option here, scale number with shape. So with that deselected, if I change the size of the emitter, you can see how it's not scaling the number of particles, which is great. So now I can change the size of my emitter and not increase the number of particles, because 9 times out of 10, I don't want to increase the number of particles if I increase the emitter size. But if I turn that on, watch what happens. Let me just move my time indicator. So now it's going to scale the number, and that's what happened before. So if I keep increasing the size of that, it's going to keep scaling the number of particles. But that said, because particle illusion is so much more responsive now, it doesn't take as long to cache those particles, which is nice. But you can see it definitely has slowed it down. So that's the option inside of particle illusion. There's also an option inside of After Effects. Let me just cancel that. And that has to do, I'm just going to turn this one on. I've got it set up for text here. So I've got this particle text, just some text I've just typed in there. And I have particle illusion applied to that text. So for the Continuum plugin version, there's also an option, where is it? This one here, under emission, mask and text, we've got scale number with shape. So again, if I change the size of the text, either by changing the point size or just changing the scale of the text, let me just grab corner there and scale that up. And just turn that off. You can see it's scaled the size in particle illusion as well. Scaled the size of the emitter, but it hasn't increased the particle count, which is great. If I do turn that on, then that's going to add a whole lot more particles. Because remember, each letter, or actually each path or line, is an emitter. So you can see how that exponentially increases the amount of particles. So great options, scale number with shape. Either have that on if you want loads of particles when you change the size of your emitter, or off if you don't want to add more particles. All right, now this is the last thing I want to show you, is emission from normals. So in previous versions of particle illusion, when you emitted from a 3D shape, all the particles emitted in one direction. But that's been we've been given another option for that now, and I'm just going to show you that. So these particles are emitting from surface. I'm going to show you how we can emit from the normal of the 3D polygon. So the normal, if you don't know, it's a direction. So it's the direction of the center of the polygon. And it is currently emitting from surface. If I choose normal, watch what happens to the particles. See how they shoot out? So these are shooting out from the normal, or the middle of each of the polygons. It's a little more obvious to see if we just turn on lines. So I'm just going to select my particle node and come over and turn on the lines, which is, let's see, I'm going to choose connect to birth position. So the birth position is the center of each of the polygons, and you can see now that we have that line that's connecting the particle to the center of the polygon. We just increase the opacity. So that'll give you a little more predictable results when you're emitting particles from 3D objects. All right, so they're the key new features in Particle Illusion for Continuum 2023. I'm going to hand over to Ben now and ask if there's any questions.
Thank you, John. That was really good. I think you sort of underplayed how big an update this new version of Particle Illusion is when you said there's no big new features, and then went on to show.
Oh yeah, I did that,
like
but then I tempered that with saying how great the new features are, right? So, you know what I mean. I mean, 3D
true.
models is huge, right? But I'm happy to see performance enhancements. I'm really happy to see so many pieces of software add big new features, but don't go back and address, things that could be better. And this version is all about that.
And yeah, you're right. This is a very user-centric update. All the things you're talking about, like the speed improvements. I think the thing that I'm loving the most is the de-emphasis, because I work a ton in Particle Illusion, and like going back to an older version of Particle Illusion now, where the stuff hasn't been ordered in the same way, and like it doesn't have that de-emphasis. I'm like, it's sort of deer in the headlights kind of thing. You sort of it really does help to speed up a workday.
And that goes with a bunch of those new features, Ben, because once you've been working in this version, going back to the previous version, it's like, okay, it's a little slower, it's a little harder to find things. Particles aren't going to go in the direction that I want them to go. I'm getting too many particles when I scale up my emitter. All of those things, they all help with a faster workflow. And obviously, if you can work faster, then you can be more creative.
That's it. Yeah, I was experimenting just the other day with a little idea I was having, and all of a sudden, like I was just wondering why things were starting to feel a bit slower, because it's like, this is, this has been so speedy recently. And I looked up at the particle account in the top right hand corner. I was expecting a few 100,000 particles, and it was like 127 million particles were being made. It was like, okay then, yeah, that can slow down a little bit. I sort of like tempered what I was doing, and tried to make it a little bit more sensible. But
Well,
But yeah, no,
me.
there's a
There'll never
ton
be
of.
enough. I'll never have enough particles, Ben. No, I want
That's right.
all. My voice is breaking. I want all the particles, not just some. So the faster it can be,
That's
if we
right.
get faster
That's
in
right.
future versions, fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
it. No, that's cool. That's really good, John. Thank you very much. I'm going to
welcome.
say goodbye to you for now. We will be back. Before we sort of disappear away from that for a little bit, I wanted to sort of shout out Rich and Megan, because in the chat they were talking about the training series that are available, and they're sort of working through the Mocha Essentials training series. We also have a Sapphire Essentials training series, and if you are, which is a premium series as well, and if you are a Boris FX Suite owner, then you get all of this premium training as part of your Boris FX Suite. If you're not, if you're not a Boris FX Suite owner, then of course you can purchase this yourself, or if you want to have a little look at particle illusion and sort of learn a little bit more about particle illusion, then we have a huge free, very, very free particle illusion getting started series, which is, hosted mostly by John, but I also pop up a little bit to say a few things. But that's growing into a behemoth of a series. So if you're just getting started with particle illusion, there is no better place to go than that free training series on the Boris FX website. Alrighty, let's move on a little bit. I just want to have a quick little check what's going on. Oh yes, we are going to be doing our second winner of the day. If you haven't joined in our competition, there is vanishing amounts of time for you to enter and win. If you go to borisfxlive.com, you'll find the competition entry form at the bottom of the page. All you have to do, tap your details in there, and you can be in with a chance to win one of our big prizes today. We've actually given away a license of Sapphire. We have got a 1 year subscription to Continuum being given away in just a moment, and another one coming up a little bit later, along with one more Sapphire, and one lucky person is going to be walking away with the Boris FX Suite, a 1 year subscription to everything we make, including Sapphire, Continuum, Mocha Pro, Silhouette, Optics, the whole shebang. That is going away to one lucky winner, plus obviously the premium training series as well. Yeah, go to borisfxlive.com, enter your details. All right, let's get the next winner. Who's going to win a 1 year subscription to Continuum? I do not know who this is. The drum roll tells me I have to have a look at my screen and see that our lucky winner is Call Me a Cab, or Call Me a Cab, Call Me a Cab, Call Me a Cab. Well, the person hiding behind Call Me a Cab has won a 1 year subscription. Oh dear! If you actually were putting that in just to prank the system, congratulations! Your prank persona has won a 1 year subscription to Continuum. So, Call Me a Cab. Excellent, excellent. Please, no one with the first name Hugh enter the competition. We all know why.
I'll take the blame for that.
All right.
Ben. Need to do a better job.
Please.
I should go watch.
Please
some
do.
Simpsons episodes.
That was a nice one. I enjoyed being put in that situation. All right, let's move onwards. We're going to go back to Nick, who is actually was on the list of 37 most prestigious Canadians, according to Boris FX Watch, which is a real publication. Nick, are you still there in the wilds
I'm here.
of Canada?
I'm here, and I'm excited. I probably have a new title since we last spoke. Do I have a new title?
That's right,
Brian.
Yes, you
Do-
do. You do.
Let's
Hold
have a
on.
look.
Hold
Let's
on,
see.
Okay.
Let's see if it's.
Hold on, I gotta find
See if the lower third actually works on this one.
Look at that.
I'm really
Oh, look
excited.
at
Oh,
that.
look at that.
Spelled
The
correctly.
magic of
Oh,
test.
that's beautiful. Director of Product Marketing, Nick Harauz. Well done. Congratulations, Nick.
Congratulations on your 1 year anniversary, Nick. This is when I start misspelling your titles. So year 1 to 2 is when it gets fun.
Can't wait for the next stream. Excellent.
What have
So,
you got
should we
for us,
talk
Nick?
some-
What do you got?
I want to talk a little bit about BCC plus Lite. I think you set the stage a little bit, Ben, beforehand, but this has been in Continuum for a couple years now and is a great effect when it comes to adding light modifiers or gobo to your imagery. And it also has a massive texture library, which you can select from the effects editor and then use on your imagery. But in this version, not only did we add an additional 50 textures, but a seamless texture property, which I think gives you more creative possibility. So I'm going to hop inside of Premiere Pro and let's show this. We got to show this.
Yes, this is what I'm interested in. This is going to be good.
Yeah, so I'm going to apply a BCC light to this clip, and immediately you sort of see the size of one of these textures that appears. One of the gobo images that we've added to our scene, this light modifier. You've got some properties at the top that you can, of course, play with the brightness, not to mention displacement, which is great, especially for our subject here, as well as blur and colorize the gobo. Where things get really exciting to me is, of course, heading into the effects editor. And let's just take a little scroll down all of the textures that are available to you here. So you haven't explored BCC plus Light. These textures are numerous, I think 700 plus counting in this library, plus the new 50 that we have here. And if you just need to see the texture by itself, we could head to the parameters over here on the right, and then just choose the view to be gobo. And these are the textures that are being blended into our imagery. So what I'm clicking on right now isn't new. What is new, or one way to discover that, is to head up here to the categories that are available for light and go to the new section. And you're going to see a slight difference between this texture that I'm showing right now and this glass 51 that I've just selected. You'll see that it expands the entire dimension of the frame. Now this gets a little bit better in the case that if I scroll down to the transform section and start to scale this texture down, it just repeats over and over and over again, and which is because it's seamless in this instance. The reason for this is the edge mode for these new textures, because they're all seamless, is set to wrap. And if I set this to transparent right now, you can see that original 1000 by 1000 texture in this case. So not only do we have access to wrap, but we could also, in some cases, with other textures, use the edge mode property of reflect, which might be useful for the non-seamless textures that are there. But as we can see, here are all of these lovely patterns that we can access that are seamless. Let's see how this is going to blend into the image that I have. I'm going to scroll up to the top of this effect and then just choose the output again here, so we can see the blur as well as the brightness of that texture. And here are some Hessian fabrics that are all been added in the new feature. And if you wanted to see that clearer, we could bring down the blur to see the detail and its seamlessness. Another thing you could do to see this is I start to drag across the texture, Ben. I don't know if you notice what's happening. It's just repeating. I'm adjusting the size, which is why I had to undo a couple of those steps infinitely, which is great and just allows us to use this in certain occasions and get more creative with this particular filter. I'll bring up the blur a little bit, add some displacement, and then just pop this back in side of Premiere Pro. So I added this in one other instance, and I'm just going to hop over to After Effects quickly, where currently, if we go inside of the effects editor, just notice that I chose one of these seamless textures. Again, this was from that new category. Can access any of these. And to see a clearer view, again, just set that to Gobo. The displacement level is currently on, which is why this texture is displacing across the image. But if you needed to see the default parameters or properties of any of these seamless textures, just simply reset them to their default values here, and you can start from scratch, making changes and additions. So yeah, so that was another example here. The only difference between what you're seeing, in this case of why I brought it to After Effects, is I just used Mocha AE for a really simple track where I tracked a texture and then attached some of the position data to the seamless texture to integrate it into this moving shot. But yeah, that's it for the BCC Lite, the seamless texture feature, plus those 50 new textures available to you. Simply apply that effect and head to the effects editor and check it out if you got Continuum.
Love it. Love it. I think the like that seamless tiling cannot be underestimated. It's been something that I've wanted to see for quite a while. You know, I've had a collection, or I've got a collection of these sort of seamless patterns, and it's just it's so nice to just be able to plug them in and just go, oh, there's all my lights. No having to sort of, you know, carefully judge where things are going anymore. It's just like, boom, slam it in. Thank you very much.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Ben, because I mean, besides all of those presets that you saw for those textures, what Ben was mentioning is that there's a Gobo input that you can use inside of Premiere and After Effects. You can use your own textures, any seamless textures that you get, and then have essentially the engine of BCC Lite to create those seamless patterns. And on top of that, I mean, for those other textures that we saw, even the default, the window shears, you could use the reflection setting to get a semi-seamless pattern, providing more creative options for your imagery when you're using gobos and light modifiers.
Yep, definitely. It's a huge bump up. It seems like it's a little thing, but again, it's these usability things that just, you know, are really sort of you know, hitting the ground running on this.
Totally.
Cool. Let's keep heading on. We've still got a fair few things to show, and time is slipping away. If you've enjoyed what you've seen so far and you're watching on YouTube, there's a little thumbs up. If you haven't clicked that, please do. You get a little celebration now. You get little fireworks, confetti. You get tons of fun stuff. So if your serotonin levels are dropping just a wee bit, hit that thumbs up button. It will do you good. All right, I want to give away something else. I've still got, but you know, I'm gonna say something else that's almost as good as a giveaway. It's the Black Friday sale. Oh yes, it's the Boris FX Black Friday sale. It's happening right now, and it's almost over. This is your last chance to save. We're down to the last few hours. I mean, it's probably about 50 hours, but we're almost there very shortly. So this is going to be 25% off of everything. So that is subscriptions, bundles, perpetual licenses, even the Boris FX Suite. Anything you want is not even up to, it is 25% off. Do we need a promo code? No promo code. Just head on over to the Boris FX store. The discounts are already there. They're waiting for you. There is one discount per customer, and it is new purchases only. So there could be a new perpetual license, but it could also be a new subscription. And there is a catch. TikTok. That is the only catch. The sale ends Friday night at midnight Eastern time. So you have about 2 and a bit days to go. So act now. Take advantage of the biggest savings of the year before time runs out. That's it. That's the pitch. That's the pitch. I want to give one thing away, but I'm scared. Brian,
I've checked, Ben. I've checked.
please.
I think we're good.
Okay.
I think we're
This
good.
this next one, I'm not going to just be reading what's on the auto cue. Yeah.
Could I say
Right. Let's
that
go.
if-
Let's hit.
Hold on. If I'm gonna get duped by a fake name, I feel we got off easy with Call Me a Cab. I feel like it
Oh yeah.
could have gone worse.
Oh yeah. It
You
could have gone a
read
lot
something.
worse. It could have gone a lot worse. I'm very grateful to all of our viewers that they are sensible with their prankings.
Such a kind
So
prank.
so
such a kind prank.
thank you all to our lovely viewers.
I'm ready.
Oh gosh. All right, go. Hit me with the drum roll. Otherwise, I'm just doing this, looking like a fool. Okay, our next winner is Rico Gino. Rico, you have won a 1-year subscription to Sapphire. Congratulations, Rico. And we are also going. Yes, we're doing it. We're doing it. I'm going to give away the next thing as well, because we've got this one last section. I'm going to give away the Boris FX Suite in a second, but I've got one last Continuum to give away. Come on, we're going to give that away to Lucy Slavinsky. Lucy Slavinsky, congratulations, Lucy. Congratulations, Rico. You have won a 1-year subscription to Continuum, Lucy, and Rico, 1 year of Sapphire. There is still time to enter for the big prize, which is the Boris FX Suite. Go to borisfxlive.com, scroll down to the bottom of the page, enter your details to win. Full terms and conditions apply. All right, it's the last bit. Yes, that's it. The Boris FX Suite, a 1-year subscription, $12.95 value. It's a biggie. It's a biggie. All right, let's head on into the last little section. I'm going to be taking a look at Ultra Grain. Then we're going to be also going to take a look at some of the new final lens flare features that we have. Then I'll be heading over to Nick as well, who is going to be talking about Continuum transitions. And then we're going to give away the big prize. So there's still a lot to play for. All right, let's go. I'm going to head on over into Resolve now, and we're going to talk about Ultra Grain. So Ultra Grain is another new effect in Sapphire 2023, and it is a way of adding grain to our image, fast and quick and nice and smooth. Now, one of the problems that I have with showing Ultra Grain, especially in an online situation, is that when we start to have a look at the different examples, it's actually kind of tricky to see it. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom in a lot. And even here, as I sort of go through the different grains, you can start to see something's happening, but it's tricky to see what's happening. I'm going to boost the brightness on this a lot so we can actually see what's happening here. Now, Ultra Grain, from the user's perspective, is actually it's a very easy effect to understand, because what it's doing is it's coming in and it's adding different types of grain or noise to the image, like camera noise. And what makes this fun and and different to the grain effects that we've had previously, and to other grain effects, is that, let's go to somewhere where we can actually see it, probably somewhere around here. And I'm going to add grain to it. Let's go actually to my original here, and let's come in and we'll find Ultra Grain. I'm going to type in Ultra. It's part of the Ultra family. Look at that, Ultra Grain popping in there. And you can see actually as I bring this in, as I pop that on there, you can already start to see something's happening. And we have a few little controls. Now the controls themselves, or the controls that we want to play with, are going to be fairly simple. Like the way that this is laid out is actually, rather straightforward. It's a great way of sort of just getting the stuff that you need in your face quickly. But where ultra grain really sort of comes into its own is the presets. And I've said this before, and with this, it's, probably more important than any of the other effects that I've shown today. Because if we take a look at the presets down here, we have grain simulation for a ton of different big camera manufacturers. Going down here, we've got Canon, we've got Blackmagic Design, we've got Sony, we've got Red, we've got Alexas. And so if I go through these, we're getting like the grain patterns that are being generated up by these, these cinema cameras, even the Blackmagic ones there. And we're getting those, the different patterns that are happening. Now, this is actually quite tricky to show when we're sort of not zoomed in, because the effect itself, when we're working with these cameras, can be quite subtle. Because what we're not going for when we're looking at a the Alexa 65 or Alexa Mini or the Alexa Mini LF, is that these are cameras that aren't inherently hugely noisy. That's part of the fun stuff about them. So, if they're not hugely noisy, why is it that we've taken the time out to actually make grain profiles of them? Well, obviously, coming in and adding grain onto something can be a stylistic exercise, but it doesn't have to be. One of the places where we sort of are going to see this a lot and see it used a lot is actually with grain matching. So when you're doing sort of matching grains, or matching different cameras between in the same scene, or actually probably we'll come over here and see it a little bit over here. We come into not Fairlight, we've come to Fusion. When we're compositing stuff, we're using this as part of a more grain managed workflow. So if I come in and just take a little look at my base clip here, we've got someone looking in the mirror, boom boom boom. But if we look over at our other shot over here, it is in fact a haunted mirror. Ooh, scary. Yes, I am scared. This is probably going to be easier to see if we look at a particular color channel. So I'll just look at the red color channel for now. And you could see that in the base plate, in the base image, we have a, it's a particular grain pattern going on within the image. And if we look at the replacement image here, we don't have that same pattern. And the reason for that is that this insert here is actually made up of a combination of de-noised footage plus still images as well, to sort of get the get the sort of insert that we needed, sort of the composite that we needed. So to make this actually fit together, I'm going to come in and I'm going to add in ultra grain. And this is where we can see how easy it is to sort of match this stuff up. Now, I happen to know that this was shot on a Blackmagic pocket camera, 6K pocket camera, which we have over here. I'm going to load this one up. And even when we load this in, you might see that these two images aren't exactly matching together. And the reason for that is that many things can come in, and especially with digital cameras, can change up what that pattern is going to be. Things like ISO, even the temperature of the camera. If the noise when the camera's just started from cold is different to the noise when the camera has been running all day. So we have like the simplest tools that we need to sort of get this together. We have things like grain size. If you're, working from a different resolution than you you want to match those together, or even things like grain amplitude, where we can just turn down the amount of grain that we need. So we keep the pattern going, but we just take down the amount that we actually need to put in there. And that's usually where we need to go. We do have grain blur, which kind of controls the sort of clumpiness of the grain, but we don't need to change that here. So bringing that through, if I just play that forwards, what we should see here is that we now have, and this is going to be not just difficult, it's going to be impossible to see in this compressed way, but what we do have is actually a grain pattern that is consistent between the base and the insert. So when we merge it together, we merge everything together. Let's take just look at this now. Go into the color. Maybe I'll dump the curves in there so we can sort of see what's happening. Let's put that in there. There we go. So we should be able to see now that we have nicely matched and managed grain between these things. So, grain management is one of those little things that happens all the time in VFX, and even in things like when we're doing restoration of of archive media, of old media. Everything just sort of gets denoised, and then what's going to happen afterwards is we have to renoise it after, or regrain it. So degrain, regrain, and that's where ultra grain pops its head in. If I just have a quick look here, I'm going to crack through this really quickly, because one of the things that people have been doing before is obviously using a grain overlay. So if we just take a look at this, this is like a classic thing people did and people do. They take a scanned piece of film, and then they'll put it over the top using a blend mode. And if you're just after a stylistic look, this actually can be all right. This is fine. I mean, we've all done it. I've got my collection of grain scans, but we don't have to do it that way, because one of the things that happens is, if we take a little look here, is that grain overlays don't work in the same way that actual film grain works, because everything was shot on grey. You're getting like a very uniform grey, a very uniform grain across the entire image, and so that doesn't work how it does when when film is shot, because we have different responses depending on what the dynamics are of the image. So if I come in here to this shot here and turn on ultra grain, I'm going to load in a preset. This is a 35mm 500T. Let's load in a preset there. I believe I can just search for Kodak, and we have some grain for film. I've got 35mm 500T. That's the one. We don't want the expired one. And we can see, between these two, let's just zoom in a little bit here. You can see between these two, it's got a very similar texture. I mean, the one in the overlay is monochrome. Okay, we'll turn on the grain mono if you want to do that. But what's actually happening is really interesting in the tonal regions, because we can control the grain amplitude in the dark, the grain amplitude in the mids, and in the brights. So if you want to add a bit more into the brights, we can do that. And that just puts in a little bit of grain in there. I'm not going to do that. Or similarly, if we wanted to add in a little bit more into the dark areas, we can do that as well. And we're not affecting like the bright areas at all. You know, one of the things that I've been you know, very, very conscious and careful about when creating these the presets and the simulations for the for the grain that we're working on in the presets, is to make sure that that tonal relationship is right. And as you can see, this is a very fast effect. This is a Ultra HD clip playing back at full frame rate, so still playing back at 25 frames a second. So one of the design things, actually the primary design thing, when we were talking about ultra grain, the one thing it had to be was fast, and that's exactly what it is. It's a very, very fast effect that gives you the you know, gives you the feel and the you know, the quality of film, and it's very easy to just load up a preset, change it how you want it, and then, you know, get going along with your day. If you did want to get a bit more into the weeds with things, you had a camera that we didn't have a preset for, or a film stock we didn't have a preset for, we can go in and you can tune all the all the grain up depending on how you need it, which is, you know, really, really rather lovely. Final thing with this, again, I'm going to go back into Photoshop, because obviously, as we have got Sapphire as a plugin, as a Photoshop plugin, going to come in here. One of the things that I love the most about film grain is not just the fact that we have it, but also that we can sort of tie this in with other effects as well. So I've got a cine look here called Ben's Cine Look, and I've got another tutorial coming out about this very shortly, where I tie in some little effects together. So we're tying in things like color fuse, which came out in Sapphire 2022. We've got a vignette and we've got ultra grain, tying everything together all in one little pre-built builder effect. So you've got like a nice little cine look all in one, which I think is rather cool. I'm just going to ask Brian to play back while people are tapping away any questions they have about ultra grain. I'm just going to ask Brian to play back the lens flare file, if he could, please, because this is, I'm not going to, you know, talk too much about lens flares. People keep telling me off because I love lens flares too much, but one of the things that I've done along with Alan Lawrence in Sapphire 2023 is go through some of our classic lens flares that people love, but were feeling a little bit dated because they were a little bit dated. And we went through and we took the feel of those flares and we reimagined them with the new tools that we have available in the new lens flare engine. So this is stuff that we couldn't do when these presets came out originally. So we've come in, they look better. That's number one. They still keep the same feel, and a lot of the time they're also faster as well. So they're faster, look more realistic, and we've sort of tried to you know, breathe life back into a lot of classic flares. Some of these flares are many years old. Some of them are just a few years old, but all of them have been given the Alan and Ben treatment. I was going to say love, but that sounds actually probably closer to the truth. They've been given the Alan and Ben love to try and make them a bit more modern again, and you can sort of just have a little explore with those. So that's actually all I want to look at with some of the lens flares there. It's one of those things that we always try to do. We always try to come in and you know, do something interesting with lens flare. And what we've done, or what we chose to do this round, was to sort of revisit and reimagine some of the classic flares and give them a Sapphire 2023 feel to them. Cool. All right, so that's a quick look at ultra grain, a very quick look at lens flare. We do have like bigger, more in-depth looks at that on the Boris FX website, of course, if you want to have a look in more detail, or you can give Sapphire and Continuum a trial run as well if you want to, if you haven't already got it. Okay, well let's keep the train running for our last section, where I'm going to head back over to Nick. Nick, hello.
Hello.
Are you still with us? Hello,
I am.
hello.
I was looking at those lens flare changes that you and Alan did, and some of the subtlety and additions. They're great. I liked also some of the textures.
We got
you
there are a
guys
couple of
added
your
as well.
flares in there as well, which
Nice.
we sort of just came along and
Gave a little
gave
tweak.
a
I love it.
little bit of a
Yeah.
little tweak. It's cool. What are you going to do now?
Cool, yeah.
What have we got? What's our last
we're gonna
section
finish-
with the headlining section?
I know there's like when you look at all of the new features for Sapphire and Continuum, there's like quite a bit. And while some of the changes might appear small, like even when John was chatting about just the performance improvements of particle illusion, it's like some great value there in terms of what's available. We're going to end with transitions inside of Continuum. So let me hop right inside my screen. I'm inside of Premiere Pro. In Continuum 2023, there are some new transitions, as well as several transitions that now have performance improvements, are now part of the BCC Plus. So they're GPU accelerated, and they have new presets, as well as a place to work within the effects editor. So in talking about some of the new transitions or brand new transitions, we have a series of swishes which are new. That includes Swish Warp, Swish Glow, and Swish Prism. We also have a film roll transition that I'll get to as well. And when it comes to BCC Plus, as well as that ability for the effects editor, what's been brought over is we've got Swish Pan, not to mention a number of wipes, vignette wipe, great texture wipe, and a line wipe, along with a few others. Let's take a look at Swish Warp. So I'm just going to apply that onto the edit point here in my sequence. And like we've seen with the effects that we've applied in Continuum, we can, of course, also head into the effects editor when it comes to transitions. And this wasn't always possible. So now we have a dual input where we have the A and B side of the edit that are inside of the effects editor, not to mention the ability to control how we transition in and out of the transition, or ease in and out of the transition. Along the way, when we can preview this transition between these two effects, as well as choose from a number of presets. So here are some here that we have for the Swish Warp. And speaking of swishes in general, Continuum had a Swish Pan, and we've added some functionality to that as well. By default, essentially the pan, you were able to pan across the images just once in a series of directions. So as we go through this preview here, I'm just swishing once across the two images. But we've added an additional feature called roll speed that would essentially allow you to whip across the image up to 10 times if that's what you were looking for. In this case, I'm just going to set the roll speed to 4 so we can see this, and just apply this and give this a preview inside of Premiere. So I don't know if you guys can see that. In fact, let me lengthen this transition a bit. So we can see, we should be able to see the series of up to, so I think I adjusted roll speed, that we can roll up to as many as 10 times across these two images. So it's essentially swishing across those images multiple times. On top of that, the swish itself, we also have a warp or a lens distortion effect built into this, which can work great on some moving footage. And as Brian Fox likes to say, when it comes to video editing, in general, you can never run out of transitions, especially when it comes to short form content. Transitions and drag and drop transitions are an editor's or video editor's best friend. So not only do you have these new transitions, but all those presets that you can access, and it works out where we're able to see our transitions play back. Continuing along the swish family, I'm going to add a swish prism to the edit point between these two clips. And let's just play back to see a preview of this. So not only do we have the swish, but also a prism-based effects using the default colors of red, green, and blue. Very similar to the swish that we just saw with the warp or the distortion effect, we've got a roll speed. So increasing the amount of rolls that happen. If I just move my playhead over the transition, of course, we can also switch the direction. So let's set that to something like right. And now we have a completely different swish across the screen and ease out of them. Continuum in the effects editor gives you a few things. One is it gives you these on-screen controls where we're able to manipulate how we ease in and ease out of a transition. These properties that I'm switching belong in the parameters to the animation tuning section. And I'll just adjust this again so we can see how I'm adjusting the ease in and ease out values. And in some cases, if we take a look at a few of the presets that have been added for the Swish Prism, you'll see that we've gone through and manipulated them to give you a sense for how you can flow across a transition, which just gives you a lot of control for your images and your scenery. So definitely worth checking out the new presets that come with each of these transitions, not to mention the easing values that have been adjusted. Cool. I'll take one of these presets and just apply it back into the host. Just to mention one more transition. So we looked at Swish Pan and Swish Warp and Swish Prism. I wanted to talk about Film Roll, another new effect. This is a combination of an effect that you might be familiar with. It's essentially uses a bunch of textures from film grunge, along with a film glow effect and a roll all combined together. When we take a look at this transition, there is a lot going on, and similar to what we've seen with other presets, heading into the effects editor is a great place to start. Both Ben as well as John Dickinson have gone through, and Ben Brownlee has created some presets here where we're only using certain values inside of the film roll. And you'll see that they're named accordingly too, where we have something as simple as just a 2-roll effect, so similar in terms of a roll style or swishing between two clips mixed with a little bit of flicker. Or we might have a 3-roll effect mixed with a high blur value. So these presets in many cases are leading you to parameters that you can switch and manipulate in order to sort of dial in and make this effect your own. When it comes to film grunge, there's a lot of textures in there that you can use and place here on your imagery. So we've got dirt, hair, scratches, stains, and splotches. Many of them are set to 0% opacity in this case, but as I start to dial some of these opacity values in, you can see that they're going to be overlaid on top of your image. And similar to a classic film roll, we have control over the amount and speed of a gate weave. And similar to some of the other effects, again, that roll speed where we can have or essentially roll between our images multiple times. This could be great for some high impact videos and transitioning between sources. Obviously, the amount of 10 is too much. Let's dial this back to 4. And then just mention one more thing when it comes to both the swishes and the rolls. which is there is also a separation value, which allows you to add some distance between your A and B clip. So if I start to adjust this separation value, we're going to get by default there's no background, but we'll see black before it transitions to the next clip. We could get a colored background though of our choice involved within the film roll and also absorbing some of those film grunge textures. So check it out. We've got those new transitions plus the additions of other transitions and swishes as well as wipes to the BCC Plus category. And that was it, Ben, for my little transition spiel.
That's it. You say that's it. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I think those new transitions are really fun. They're really dynamic. Like like you said, I put in a ton of presets for these as well.
Yeah.
And I've got to say those were some of my favorite days, were just rolling those presets, because it's so easy to come in and create a lot of, really different looks with those transitions. What was your experience with that?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I did a lot of experimenting specifically with film roll, but also just in being able to, when we were exchanging presets back and forth before the release, just being able to take some of the presets and see a transition from another video editor's perspective is just awesome, and it gives ideas of creative flair. I think adding to this whole preset discussion is that I recommend, even if you make small changes to a transition, to save it as a preset. Number one, it's going to be easier for you to access on whatever application that you're using Continuum in. Number two, these become shareable. They're super lightweight XML files. I'm working in Premiere, Ben's working in Resolve. We can exchange those back and forth for transition-based workflows and extend, even the ability of sending our projects over through XML, having all of these presets built and seeing it the way that the video editor or motion graphic designer intended it to be for the final release of your project. So I think that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. All right. Well, we've come to the end of our stream now. I just I want to say thank you very much to all of our presenters. I want to say thank you very much to Nick Harauz. I want to say thank you to John Dickinson as well for showing us the particle illusion.
Welcome.
And there we all are in the 3 box. I also want to say thank you very much to myself for hosting. I don't at all. But no, thanks very much, guys, for
thanks, Ben.
Get out. Right, that's it. Brian, take these people away. I don't want to see them anymore. And I'm serious.
Okay.
All right, let's line things up. Let's take that horrible taste out of my mouth, and let's do what I love to do, and that's give away free stuff. But before that, do we have a final? We've got a final appeal to. We've got the final sale, haven't we? Brian, show me the final sale. The hours have ticked down. We started off with 2 hours longer in the sale than we have now. This really is your last chance to save 25% off everything in the Boris FX
one for you, Ben?
Black
you
Friday
take a
sale.
You want me to
please,
do your sales
please take it.
25% off everything. The sale is happening right now. Okay, perpetual licenses, subscriptions, training products, everything we sell is on sale, and it ends Friday night at midnight. Some would say PST, some would say EST. Who knows? I don't know. Sometime around midnight. The sale ends Friday night. Here is a clever little hack. If I maybe got a subscription last year and that subscription was coming up for renewal, you could always get a new subscription at 25% off. So that's maybe what I would do if I had a subscription and wanted to take advantage of the sale. 1 per customer. New purchases only 25% off everything. happening right now. Ends midnight. Run over to borisfx.com. No discount code needed. Prices are adjusted. You're good to go. How was that, Ben?
There we go. Thank you very much. That was good. That was good. That works for me. Oh, there's one person who doesn't need to run off though, to the store right now. Do you know why? Because they're about to get a free win of what's it called? The Boris FX Suite. That's what we've got left. Yes, we're gonna be winning the Boris FX Suite. Or one person is going to be winning. So everyone else, run off to the store now. That one per $5 value. Congratulations, Koa. Congratulations to all of our winners today, and congratulations to everyone who has been watching, because after all, we've all shared in something today, and I think that's more valuable than anything. I want to say thank you very much again to all of our presenters. I want to say thank you very much to all of our viewers. I want to say a big thank you to all of our winners. We will be in contact with how we or with how you actually get your prize. But to stay up to date with the latest in the Boris FX Live calendar, head on over to borisfxlive.com. We will be streaming again very soon. Maybe we've got one before the end of the year. Who knows? Maybe a little secret. But yeah, thank you very much to everyone for helping to make 2022 so far be one of my favorite of our streaming years. My name is Ben Brownlee for Boris FX, and I will see you again very soon. Bye for now.